All right, good evening. I'm calling to order the Concord Township Board of Trustees meeting for March 2nd, 2022. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mrs. Dawson, roll call, please.
Mr. Dondorfer.
Present.
Mr. McIntosh.
Present.
Mrs. Lucci.
Present. So we have some very important people to introduce and recognize this evening.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to the Morrison family and Mr. Zarin. Mr. McIntosh, would you like to say a few words about the foundation and Mr. Zarin's part?
Sure. Well, tonight we're here to recognize a Concord resident, but presenting an award is Mr. Eric Zarin, who currently serves as the president and secretary of the Carnegie Hero Foundation. It's a Pittsburgh-based foundation that recognizes civilian heroism. He's served as president since June of 2017. Prior to that, served as executive director until in 2016, and has been a member of the board since 2015. Mr. Zarin retired from the U.S. Secret Service in May of 2016 following a 25-year career as a special agent. Amongst things that he served as special agent in charge of the Pittsburgh field office from 2010 until his retirement in 2016. He had multiple assignments in the Secret Service, including the Newark field office, and served in the Presidential Protection Division, protecting President Clinton and President George W. Bush, and served as resident attaché in charge in Berlin. He's a graduate at Indiana University of Pennsylvania and University of London, also having studied in Germany. The Hero Fund was established by Carnegie in 1904, and a Carnegie Medal has been awarded to 10,000 individuals in recognition of outstanding heroism in the act of saving lives. They have given out grants totaling more than $40 million have been given to benefit awardees and their survivors, to include scholarship age and continuing assistance and death benefits. So thank you for being here this evening.
It's amazing. Yeah, I also think it's important just to touch base on what the Commission's working definition of a hero is, as well as the requirements for the award. The candidate for an award must be a civilian who voluntarily risks his or her life to an extraordinary degree while saving or attempting to save the life of another person. The rescuer must have no full measure of responsibility for the safety of the victim. There must be conclusive evidence to support the act's occurrence, and the act must be called to the attention of the Commission within 2 years. Pretty amazing.
So Shane, we have been thinking about this for a long time, and we would like to recognize you. Mr. Rose, can you please read our letter?
Well, is there a medal presentation? We'll probably do that first, Madam Chair, and then we can do the proclamation immediately following.
Okay. All right, then we can.
Come on up.
Thank you so much for having us here today. We're truly honored to join you here, and thank you all for being here in addition to regular township business to honor our most recent Carnegie hero, Shane Morrison. Thank you to the trustees for having us. Appreciate it very much. You did a great job laying out some of the thinking behind the fund and some of the history of the fund itself. You mentioned that Andrew Carnegie established it in 1904. So for 118 years, we've been doing three essential things: recognizing civilian heroism in the U.S. and Canada, supporting those heroes in a number of different ways, and also equally as important to our cause is to tell the story of what these heroes did for other people. You mentioned the requirements for the award. Of the hundreds of cases the Commission examines every year, only about 10% are ultimately awarded, and 20% of our medals are awarded posthumously to those who lost their lives in their efforts to save another person. Awardees of the Carnegie Medal come from all different backgrounds: racial, ethnic, religious, socio-economic backgrounds, but they have one thing in common, and that is in a moment of truth when lives were in peril, that they made that split-second decision to risk their own lives on behalf of another individual. Really, what we recognize through the Carnegie Medal is a moral choice made by the rescuer in that moment. That choice changes lives. It changes the lives of the rescuer or the rescued party and others who may be inspired to act in behalf of others, as Shane did. In a sense, our heroes take a heartbeat oath in a moment of intensity with real life, long-lasting, sometimes final consequences. And it binds the rescuer to accept whatever outcome stems from their willingness to trade their life for another. So Shane certainly embodies Carnegie's ideal and the very best of human nature, our innate ability to selflessly put another's life above our own without obligation or thoughts of our own well-being. So with that said, I'd like to read the official act of what Shane actually did to be considered for recognition by the Hero Fund Commission. Shane Morrison helped to rescue Donovan Conwell from drowning, Mentor, Ohio, on June 24th, 2020. Donovan, 13, was swimming in Lake Erie when he had difficulty returning to the rock breakwater from which he had entered the water. Shane, 15, a high school student, was atop the breakwater with friends when he saw Donovan bobbing up and down in deep water about 200 feet northeast of the breakwater. Shane dived into the water, swam to Donovan, and grasped him from behind. A lengthy struggle ensued, during which Donovan submerged Shane repeatedly as Shane kept Donovan afloat in the water. Authorities arrived shortly in a boat, brought Shane and Donovan aboard, and took them to safety. Donovan, who had ingested water, received treatment at a hospital and recovered. Shane, nearly exhausted, also recovered. Shane, can I ask you to join me here just quickly? It's truly my honor and privilege on behalf of the Hero Fund Commission to present to you the Carnegie Medal for Civilian Heroism. Thank you.
Tilt it down just a smidge. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Shane, congratulations. So now we would like to read our recognition letter. Mr. Rose, please.
Concord Township proclamation for Shane Morrison. It is with great pleasure that the trustees of Concord Township extend their congratulations to Shane Morrison for attainment of North America's highest honor for civilian heroism, the Carnegie Medal. The Carnegie Medal is given throughout the U.S. and Canada to those who enter extreme danger while saving or attempting to save the lives of others. As of this date, a total of 10,273 Carnegie medals have been awarded since the Pittsburgh-based fund's inception in 1904. 15-year-old Shane Morrison of Concord Township, Ohio, was atop a rocky breakwater with friends on June 24th, 2020, when he noticed a younger boy drifting into deeper water in Lake Erie off of Mentor, Ohio. After shouting at the boy and receiving no response, Shane of Concord Township, Ohio, jumped in and swam to 13-year-old Donovan Conwell. Donovan had already struggled to remain afloat for several minutes, and as Shane approached, he panicked and submerged Shane repeatedly as Shane kept him afloat in the water. Shane attempted to swim back toward the breakwater, but he made little progress due to strong currents pulling them farther into the lake. Donovan was in and out of consciousness as Shane trod water. Authorities arrived in a boat, picked up the boys, and took them to safety. Donovan, who ingested water, received treatment at a hospital, and he recovered. Although nearly exhausted, Shane was not injured. Shane, we congratulate you on receiving the Carnegie Medal and for your act of heroism. Sincerely, the Concord Township Board of Trustees, Amy Lucci, Carl H. Dondorfer, and Morgan McIntosh. Thank you.
We're going to come down.
Yeah, I'll spin around so that I'll say this. Okay.
Sure.
The right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. This is probably a good time if you're here for the Morrison presentation, unless you want to listen to wonderful Concord Township business, this is the perfect time to escape.
Yeah, thank
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
It's a pleasure
Thank you
to
very
meet
much.
Yes.
Have a great evening.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Congratulations.
Okay, that's the way to start a meeting, I think.
Great way to start the meeting.
On a positive note. Okay, so we are moving on, and we are up to the approval of minutes.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the February 16th, 2022 regular trustee meeting minutes.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the February 23rd, 2022 special meeting minutes.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
And it's time for our elected official reports. Our fiscal officer, Mrs. Dawson.
Thank you, Mrs. Lucci. As of February 28th, we were 17% of the way through the calendar year. Treasury balance for the 20 funds within the township treasury was $15.3 million after posting the advance of the first half of the 2021 real estate taxes. The remainder of the funds will be received in March or early April. The treasury balance includes $11.1 million in funds set aside for specific projects, including the fire stations. Year-to-date revenue is 17% of the annual revenue budget, and expenditures were 11% of the 2022 temporary appropriations, so we're very well within budget. We'll be asking the trustees tonight to vote on the 2022 permanent appropriations. We changed the appropriations workshop up a bit this year, and I appreciate the time that the department heads and the trustees put into it to make this a very successful evening. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call my office, 440-354-7516. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Dawson. Trustees, Mr. Dondorfer.
Okay, I didn't have too many points this evening. I did have a couple issues of correspondence regarding some of the issues that came up in the zoning board meeting last night. So I did watch the zoning board meeting to educate myself on those issues. We had our appropriations workshop that I thought went very well as far as our responsibility to make sure that the department heads are on budget and the township is being fiscally responsible as far as entering this year. Excited about the Founders Day breakfast coming up next week to sort of really kick off the bicentennial. So that's happening next week. So I'm excited about that. Deb Esker and her group has done a lot of prepping for that, so that'll be great. It was nice to recognize, Shane this evening. What a act of extreme bravery, and I don't think there's any other greater act of heroism than saving a life and risking your own at the same time. So I'm sure that young man was in great peril if he didn't act the way he did. So that's just an amazing accomplishment. Other than that, I don't have anything.
All right, thank you. Mr. McIntosh.
It hasn't been, fairly busy actually doing a lot of stuff, but I haven't had a lot of conversation with residents. I did receive a request for a slowdown in a speeding sign in a neighborhood and a resident who made some requests with respect to property. And I want to thank Tim Brown, our service director, and Heather Freeman from the zoning department. Both of them interact with the resident, help me work through and get that issue done. I did have a complaint or question at one point about the traffic light at Prouty and Morley, which is the one where we added the left signal and all that. And I do know that there was some, I believe it came up, there's some reprogramming going involved, and there's some longer wait times. Mr. Rose, I think you brought that up.
Yes, sir.
But I've talked with some residents about that. We had our appropriations workshop, which was a really helpful experience. It was great getting together with the various department heads, talking about their budgets and having a really solid working understanding of the budgets. There's a lot that goes into the budget and planning for the township. Our fiscal officer does a fantastic job of keeping track of everything, and has been very helpful with us, this new board, as far as getting us on board with that. I know there's been some conversation on social media and some discussion about township finances and whatnot, and I think the heart of it, where we discussed last week, and just as a reminder to the community, those are public meetings, and that the trustees remain available to discuss that, and all that information is there's nothing secret about it, so it's out there for public consumption. And with as much conversation as we have about budgets and the projects, and we've got ARP funds that we're sort of discussing, I certainly want to be transparent about that. So I think that's important for the community to know what goes into that process. It's not a rubber stamp by any means. And then lastly, I was made aware that there are residents who are concerned about the request for rezone, which the zoning commission took up last night, and at some point will come before this board, but not this evening. I did already dialogue with a resident about some of their concerns or questions, so I've noted that. I haven't actually seen the plan myself because it hasn't come to us yet, so keeping those thoughts to myself. And what a great way to start the night with recognizing Shane. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that both myself and the law director were once lifeguards and can certainly appreciate the heroism involved in jumping into the water and swimming out after somebody. And to hear that there was drowning people can be pretty scary, and they can definitely take you down. So that took a lot of courage, and open water like that's not something to be taken lightly. So I congratulate him on that. So, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I know I kind of wanted to ask Shane, what was going through your mind when you saw someone in trouble and you just kind of went out there? I always find it so fascinating that people who do that kind of thing for a living, how they think, and just, what kind of person, what kind of values that they really have that make them able to do something like that. So it's pretty incredible. So as far as my report, same kind of thing here. Not much other than a few emails regarding the rezone from yesterday, which I need to look into more. We just had that yesterday with the zoning commission. Again, thank you to Mrs. Dawson and the department heads for our appropriations workshop. I thought it went very well, and I think it is very important to mention that, we place a lot of scrutiny in every single decision. We don't take anything lightly. Fiscal responsibility is very important. So, and yes, those meetings are open to the public. We're happy to have people listening on that as well. We had a staff meeting on Friday. We were updated on some of the department things that are going on. It's nice to see some work getting done across the street with the fire stations. So that's always wonderful to see. I'm also looking forward to our birthday festivities next week. And I think we have a legislative breakfast this Friday.
Friday, yes, ma'am.
Here's some things going on in the state. So with that, we will move on to our department reports. So our administration department, Andy Rose.
Thank you, Mrs. Lucci, members of the board, Mrs. Dawson, members of the audience, good evening. I'd just like to start with one item on the agenda to cover, which is item C. This is a resolution related to ARPA funds. When the U.S. Treasury Department issued their final rules, they included language that allows political subdivisions, ourselves included, to allocate what's called a standard allowance, which is not to exceed $10 million or up to the amount you've received, that if it's below $10 million. In ARPA funds, this resolution authorizes the township to utilize funds within the final rule guidelines as a standard allowance. That standard allowance gives us some flexibility on how funds can be allocated within the established Treasury rules. So I encourage passage of resolution number 7 at the appropriate time. I'm finishing up the annual TIF and CRA, that's Tax Increment Financing and Community Reinvestment Act reports. Those are due to the state by March 15th. We will be early. And then a little bit of a sad note, and I'm going to change up how I give my report, and I'm going to ask Chief to come up to the lectern, and then I will finish my report. But on February 22nd, I received a resignation letter, and Chief and I talked, and we felt it was appropriate to read it on the record. And then I'll finish my report when Chief is done.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. On February 22nd, 2022, I received a letter that I'll read as follows. Dear Chief Sabo, who would have thought that a firefighting career of 4 decades would go by so quickly? I started with Concord Township Fire Department right after high school in 1982 as a volunteer part-time firefighter, promoted to full-time firefighter in 1988, promoted to shift lieutenant in 1996, promoted to shift captain in 2005, and promoted to Deputy Fire Chief in 2009. I cannot express enough the amount of gratitude that I have for all of the Board of Trustees, fiscal officers, Town Hall administrative staff, Service Department, Recreation and Zoning staff, previous and current, for the great working relationships we had that gave us the ability to serve the residents of our community with high standards. Most importantly, I have to thank all of the firefighters and fire officers of Concord Township for keeping me safe and secure so I could go home after each shift to my family. Every one of those firefighters passed on to me their brilliant education, words of wisdom, tricks of the trade, lessons learned, and so much more that gave me the strength to grow as a firefighter and fire officer. They were truly the foundation of my career. My father told me many years ago when I started, never go past a fire and never forget where you came from. I followed that advice wholeheartedly, and I passed that same advice on to all of our firefighters. The time has come to bring my career with Concord Township Fire Department to a closure. I'm officially announcing my retirement effective June 16th, 2022. I plan to use all of my skills and knowledge that I have gained from the community of Concord Township with my future plans of employment, such as officer development and promotion, emergency management, and critical preparedness in both the public and private setting. Thank you, Concord Township, for an amazing career. Signed, Deputy Fire Chief Ron Terriaco.
So based on Deputy Chief Terriaco's, it's really not a resignation letter, it's a notification of retirement.
Right.
But I accepted on behalf of the township trustees his letter, and that's been placed in his personnel file effective for June 16th of 2022, but I thought that letter was fantastic and I wanted it to be captured on the record, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks,
have many opportunities in the coming months, and it'll be expressed over and over again. But we are so grateful. I'm personally grateful for the leadership and dedication that he has brought to bear in Concord Township Fire Department, and the legacy left by his dad, Chief Richard Terriaco. And so you think of all the collective years that his family has dedicated to Concord Township, and not just in the fire department, but in the township in general. So we're eternally grateful and appreciative for the service of Ron, and wish him the best on his retirement. So, but we'll have more to come.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
And then finally, as I've been doing, because it's our bicentennial year, can you put that picture up for me, Rick? Our featured bicentennial picture for this meeting is a photo of Town Hall, which I thought was appropriate as our 200th birthday is less than a week away. I'm unsure of the exact date of the picture, but it was certainly taken prior to the 1973 additions. Town Hall was built in 1870. It has been in continuous use as the meeting place for our trustees to conduct business. And it should be noted, the floors and the structural beams underneath and in the roof, they're original from 1870. I applaud all the previous boards and administration for doing their very best to maintain this wonderful building that we still meet in today. And I know Deb Esker is going to cover it in greater detail, but I am looking forward to all of the birthday festivities coming up next week. And that concludes my report. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rose. Our fire department, Chief Sabo, again.
All right. Thank you. For the month of February, we responded to 221 events. We had 151 EMS events with 126 transports. We had 70 non-EMS events and 11 fire events. Inside of Concord, we had 3 fires, 2 residential, 1 vehicle. And outside of Concord, we had a total of 8, including 4 residential, 2 residential chimney fires, and 2 business fires. We gave mutual aid 26 times and received mutual aid 9 times. And we had 67 overlapping calls, accounting for just over 30% of our call volume were overlapping last month. The Bureau was out and completed 42 inspections, accounting for about 76 hours. They did 4 plan reviews, accounting for about 12 hours, and they did a fire investigation in Painesville Township, or assisted in a fire investigation in Painesville Township. In the education side of things, they completed 4 hours for EMS and fire safety training for 6 staff members of an assisted living center. So we're happy to be back out and providing that valuable training to our businesses in Concord. If anybody should feel free to reach out and ask us if they're looking for additional education. Some construction updates from the fire prevention standpoint. Ordnance Technology Services on Wellness Way may be extending its renovations, working on replacing all the windows, and have supply chain issues with other materials. Accurate Landscaping is nearing its completion, and Ranpack renovation of the offices are underway and working on sprinkler system update. So all these construction projects, the Fire Bureau is out and assisting our businesses in their transitions and in their projects to make sure that they're fire safe and well on their way to being successful. Last week I had the pleasure of attending the basic public information officer class presented by FEMA. It was held at the Emergency Operations Center here in Lake County, so I am officially a public information officer. So,
Wonderful. Great job.
Keep that in mind.
right.
Mr. Felton would like to talk to you after the meeting.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We did have the opportunity to interact with some media. Channel 19 joined us, and as well as I think Channel 5. So we had those opportunities, and so it was a good class, very valuable. Just this afternoon, I returned from the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association Winter Symposium. This symposium is the fire chiefs in Ohio's opportunity to meet with our legislators and discuss topics that are important to us in the fire service. This year we focused on House Bill 545, including peer support. House Bill 304 is in regards to smoke alarms. House Bill 138, EMS law updates, some things to help the EMS personnel out in the field when encountered with a do not resuscitate order. And House Bill 225 and Senate Bill 38 regarding volunteer firefighter tax credits. So we had the opportunity to sit down with Senator Serino and have some good dialogue with him and educate him and loop him in on some of the issues that are based in the fire service in Ohio. Our township is seeing not only a surge in commercial construction, but residential as well. As March weather improves, we may be out driving or walking through these construction areas. Our safety tip for this month focuses on your safety in these construction areas. So, Rick, please. So first, we urge you to stay focused. Avoiding a construction site zone altogether is the safest option. Keep your eye out for posted warnings. And we can't stress this enough. Pay attention. Put down that cell phone. Move through the area as quickly and safely as possible. In addition, as a pedestrian, always watch your step for uneven pavement in the muddy, wet, and often icy in this time of the year, areas that are slippery. Other vehicles passing through the construction zone put pedestrians at risk. Put me back, Rick. There we go. Protecting workers is also protecting yourself. Make sure equipment operators can see you. Make eye contact with the operator before you move through that work area. There we go. We urge you to move over early. Lane closures do not only occur with road construction, but construction of new homes within the township have caused some periodic road blockages. We urge you to be patient, and everyone will get through and get to where they're going. Slow down and follow lane closure directions when approaching any type of construction area. So, and again, I would like to congratulate Shane on his achievement. Certainly not an award that you planned for. As a first responder myself, we're trained and prepared for those events. I could only imagine, I cannot imagine what was going through his mind in a spontaneous situation that he had to make a split-second decision, and that recognition is well-deserved. So congratulations to Shane and his family for that. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have our Service Department, Mr. Tim Brown.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Service Department in the month of February responded to 17 call-outs for snow and ice conditions. Crews applied approximately 1,300 tons of salt this past month. The Equipment Maintenance Department handled several minor repairs of the snowplow fleet and kept the equipment in service throughout the snow events. Our other crew activities performed by the department were 42 repairs to mailboxes, snow removal from cul-de-sacs, 3 burials in the cemetery, pothole patching, and road evaluations for the upcoming repair season. Once the weather breaks, crews will be out making sod damage repairs throughout the township. The administrator and I met with representatives from the Lake County Stormwater Department to discuss current stormwater projects and update the plans for future stormwater projects within the township. Stormwater Department representatives have agreed to come to the second April trustee meeting to provide information and clarification of maintenance responsibilities to detention ponds, retention ponds, easements, and other stormwater features. The Service Department reminds residents that with any questions or concerns to contact us at 440-350-3225 or by email at concordtwp.com under Service Department. Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Next, we have our Zoning Department, Mrs. Freeman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So during the month of February, the zoning department approved 20 zoning permit applications for various projects. Of those permits, 7 were for new single-family homes. Additionally, 1 was for a new business that's going to be located at the Crowd Crossing Shopping Center. I believe their sign is already up, so you might have seen it. Wolfgang Bakery and Grooming, which is a pet store that apparently the owners bake special cookies and treats for dogs, so that'll be a nice asset to that shopping center over there. Residents may also be noticing some additional construction happening because this is the time of the year, specifically over on Auburn Road. There are currently a couple medical office buildings that are underway. Additionally, some trees have been cleared out over on a site located on Discovery Lane for a new manufacturing business who is going to be submitting to the township for their approvals. And then just a reminder for some of our residents, with spring coming up soon, you're probably going to be start thinking about possibly some home improvement projects that you might have, renovations or other additions to your home or property. Just a reminder to keep that a lot of those projects do require zoning permits, such as an addition to your house or a deck, shed, swimming pool, fence, or some other accessory building or structure. And that you should contact the zoning department prior to installing those improvements, and we can advise you on what the regulations are. Also, some of those projects might also require a separate building permit from the Lake County Building Department. So I encourage residents to reach out to zoning department staff, or also we have a lot of information sheets on our website. If you go to concordtwp.com, click on zoning permits, there are several information sheets that give you much of the information that you might need in helping to plan for those projects. And then just finally, next week's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting has actually been canceled due to no applications. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you very much. Our Recreation Department, Mrs. Esker.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
And happy
evening.
birthday, Concord Township.
Whoop, whoop.
March is a very special month for us. Not only is it Trustee Amy Lucci's birthday month, but also March 8th, 2022, I snuck that in there, is Concord Township's 200th birthday.
39.
March 8th is our day, 200 years in the making. It'll be a day filled with coming together in celebration and honoring our township and its people. We've got a lot of celebrating to do, and I am here to tell you about it. Please, Rick, fire up my PowerPoint. Thank you very much. This month's short lesson in Concord history honors our Articles of Establishment. Before Concord was created, our land was part of Geauga County, and at a March 8, 1822 town hall meeting ordered by Geauga County Commissioners, Concord Township was officially formed. One paragraph from our article of establishment from 1822 states, in the eloquent